Thanks for tuning in to Sin's Workshop. I'm Cynthia, Editor-in-Chief of Sin's Workshop, and today we're going to be discussing Seven Deadly Shadows by Courtney Alameda and Valynne E. Maetani. So, Seven Deadly Shadows is a YA contemporary retelling of the classic Seven Samurai. So it functions much in the same way, except there's a lot of mystical ness to it. You know, there's a lot of fantasy following Akira on her journey to gather 7 Shinigami to not only defend her shrine, help her protect her shrine, but to also locate the last shard of the mystical sword that will destroy the demon lord Shutenjoji, who wants to bring everlasting darkness over the world. So that's how the story functions. You know, she has to gather these 7 warriors to protect the world, basically, because if he gets that last shard, he'll be unstoppable, and it's the only way he can also be killed if this sword is reconstructed and put back together. And it follows Kira on this journey. It would be the villagers. She is the equivalent of the villagers of the original story. And in this novel, once her one home is attacked, because she doesn't feel at home when she's at home. She feels an outcast at home. She feels like an outcast at school. The Shinto shrine and being a priestess is the only place where she has peace, where she feels like she fits in. But because of a lot of everything that's happening in the outside world, she has a lot of doubt about her abilities, because she can see the other world. She can see demons. She can see the Shinigami. She can see what others cannot, and that makes her very special, but she doesn't feel very special. She feels very much on the outskirts. She feels like she's on the fringe, like she doesn't fit in. So the story is all about her journey, not just to find the Shinigami, but to also find this acceptance of herself, this inner strength. And she does go on this incredible journey for this. She definitely does. She definitely does get to grow as a character, and it's a very powerful growth for her, because she's the one who has to wield the sword. So it's a lot of sword training, it's a lot of coming into her powers, it's a lot of believing in herself before she believes in magic and mysticism first and foremost. And I thought that was very powerful as far as the character development goes, especially because this is only a 288-page book. To me, that doesn't seem like a lot. Maybe to others it might, but to me, 288 pages, that doesn't seem like a lot to me. And yet, there's so much in this book. It's so rich, it's so full. It feels longer than that, but not in the way that it drags. It's just there's so much story going on that you're so submersed in it, you get lost in the story. And getting lost in the story is such a wonderful feeling, because then you never want it to end, and then when it does end, you're like, what? No, I didn't want it to end. And that's what's good about this novel. That is what is great about this novel, that you can get lost in it. You can get lost in the folklore and the mythology of Japanese culture. And I have to give props to these authors, because they were very respectful of Japanese culture. This novel, yes, Kira, I don't know if there are any Inuyasha fans out there. Kira reminds me a lot of Kagome, but she's not she reminds me of her, like the essence of her, but she's nothing like Kagome, and I think that's great. She's a very solemn character, Kira. In the beginning, she's very quiet, very, there was a word I was thinking of and now I've lost it. Reserved. There we go. That was the word. She's very reserved. And she lets herself get bullied. She lets herself get diminished by people because she doesn't have that belief in herself. She just wants to kind of go through life and then just disappear. That's the kind of vibe that I got from the beginning of the book. But then by the end of the book, she's like, no, I'm here and I'm going to kick your tushy. My son is here, so I have to watch my language. She does kick tushy. See, she teaches the bullies a lesson, which I say read just for that scene because it's great. Her tone, her attitude, the narrative, the way the writers wrote out in detail that whole scene, incredible, very impactful for the reader. Because you finally really see how her journey from the beginning has influenced it to her point. And then you're like, oh, yay. But how is this going to come into play? Like, is this going to still be a factor when she has to face the demon lord? And it is. And it's great because of that. You know, she still has those reserved feelings. And it does take her until the end to just finally, like, come out of her shell, to break out of it and find her strength to fight the demon lord and totally, you know, kick tushy. And the way the writers were able to just capture that in this length of book was amazing, because it does capture the passage of time. You know, time passes. I think a couple of months pass in the book. I think 2 months. And or maybe it's shorter, maybe just felt longer. But her journey is captured beautifully. It is wonderful. And Akira is just a great character. Like, in the beginning, you're kind of on the fence. You're like, oh, I don't know if I'm really gonna like her. But then as her journey goes, as she develops as a character, she shines a lot, to the point where at the end of the book, you kind of want more of her. But there's nothing left to tell. I mean, you know, she's left with the shrine, and it is her home. She accepts it as her home. She finds some sort of acceptance with her family. I wouldn't say that they become one big happy family, but she finds peace in her place with them, only because she's finally discovering that that's not really her home. The shrine is her home. The shrine is the place that accepts her for all of her gifts. Now, I have to hand it to the authors. They were very great at respecting Japanese culture. There's nothing about it that is stereotypical. It's very respectful. It's very honorable. The way that they bring to life the yokai demons and the shinigami and the kitsune and the I think it's the moonlight court. I'm sorry. It has beautiful, rich details to them, and the personalities shine. All the shinigami are different. You've got the stoic one, the snarky one, the strong one, and then you've got the very gentle, humble one, and they all balance each other out quite wonderfully. You can see how they influence Kira as a character. But there's nothing stereotypical about this book. Like I said, she just reminds me of Kokome, and there are a lot of elements in the novel that are reminiscent of anime and manga, but it's not a cheap novel. It's rich, it's vibrant, it's respectful, and it's honorable. And at the end of the day, what this novel inspired me to do was look up yokai demons and shinigami, you know, to learn more about these figures in Japanese culture. What do they stand for? What is their influence? You know, it encouraged me to learn more about Japanese culture as a whole. And I think that if a novel encourages you to learn, if a novel encourages you to learn more, then that's a good novel, because it's pushing you to expand your horizons. And I have to hand it to the authors. They did a great job in that. It moves at a great pace, captures the passage of time perfectly, highlights character development, and also highlights the culture in a very respectful and honorable way. So for that alone, I have to say, this is definitely a novel to pick up. I could reiterate myself, but I don't want to come off as too repetitive. Definitely check out Seven Deadly Shadows. I gave this novel 4.5 stars. It's not quite at 5 stars, just because in the beginning I'm not sure if I'm going to like the characters or not, mainly Akira. But 4.5. Solid 4.5. So for that, check out the book at your local library or head to your local bookstore. Please remember to support your local bookstores. I know everyone wants to just go on Amazon and get the book, but definitely support your indie bookstores and Barnes & Noble. I love my Barnes & Noble, just like I used to love Borders. So I'm just hoping that doesn't, I just don't want a repeat of Borders, where it just went out of business and closed down. That's something my favorite Borders was turned into a 2-story CVS, So please, support your local bookseller. It doesn't have to be Barnes & Noble. It could be the mom and pop bookstore down the street, in the next block over. But please support your local bookseller and support your local libraries. So on that note, have a nice day, guys.